Hello, I am Cliffy B, or Cliff Blazinski. I am an American video game designer, and I am the former director of the video game development company Epic Games. I'm here to talk to you today about video game violence and the effect that it has on people, or the stigma that it does. Since the beginning of video games, there has always been an element of violence. It goes as far back as Donkey Kong throwing barrels at Mario. In every video game, you're working towards a goal, which usually involves conflict in the form of a fight, a challenge, or an obstacle to overcome. In perspective of the length of humanity, video games has only been around for a very short amount of our existence. Their presence has only been felt really over the last maybe 3 generations. And as anything new presented to humans, we face it with an element of fear and suspicion. Especially with mothers. Since the beginning, mothers have feared that their children, their sweet, innocent children, will play these video games, these violent video games, and turn into these axe-wielding murderers. It's human nature to have conflict, though. If you look at 2 kids playing in their backyard, you'll sometimes witness them acting out some epic adventure with battles and magic, and it's nature, it's human nature to imagine these things. And video games are no different than these childish games, really. There's no solid evidence to suggest that there's a correlation between games that include an element of violence and someone being inspired to produce their own acts of violence, at least in mentally healthy individuals. Video games' effects on a person are solely contextual, depending on that specific person. In fact, Christopher Ferguson, co-author of the study and a psychology professor at Stetson University, stated, "We found no evidence that violent video games increase bullying or delinquent behavior among vulnerable youth with clinically elevated mental health symptoms." His study also found that video games caused almost a cathartic effect on the subjects, and there was even a noted decrease in bullying and aggression shown by some of those children who were prone towards those actions, who were more likely to be a bully. They actually had less aggression towards their peers. Saying that by just enjoying and playing video games increases violence is a really unfair statement. One of my quotes from Game Politics magazine stated my belief on the situation really well. And I'm going to read it for you. "People like to make just a kind of casual link and say, well, video games cause violence. It's like, let's see, there's more crime in the summer and more ice cream sold in the summer. Therefore, ice cream causes crime." That's not how legitimate scientific research works. In fact, one study showed that as video games increased in popularity and higher rates of sale, the rate of crime, specifically violent crimes, decreased. In the end, video games really haven't been around for enough time to have an absolute answer to the question, do violent video games ever produce violence in the player? But for the length of time that we have had games, I can confidently say that there is no solid evidence supporting that theory. Thank you for your time.